Hey all, welcome back. In this episode, I'm tackling the front suspension. This is basically the last of the really grotty stuff now, so I'm looking forward to getting this cleaned up and looking shiny. The steering rack is first up. No power steering here, so this is nice and simple. It's just 4 bolts to take it out. And I'll set the subframe aside to deal with later. The boots are dry rotted, so I'll be replacing those. Then the track rod ends came off. I didn't even bother marking the positions of these. After all this work, the car's definitely going to need an alignment anyway, so I didn't see the point. I gave the rack a good test and it doesn't seem worn out anywhere, so I'll just clean it up, replace the boots and put some fresh grease in it. The boots came off and I'll clean it all up later. The struts are going to need a lot of cleaning. I painted the calipers years ago and immediately hated the colour. I'll strip these down and refurbish them in a separate video. The discs are a little rusty, but they're almost unused. They've only got a few hundred miles on them, so I'll just clean these up. Almost all of this is going to be replaced though, it's trashed. Right then, let's get the brakes off. The hose comes off first, and then the clips. I needn't have bothered though, I pulled the caliper off with the pad still in place anyway. Then the ball joint nut needed to come off. I couldn't find the proper spanner and my sockets wouldn't fit, so I just used an adjustable. Even though it was a metric one, it still did the job. And then the ball joint came out. Or not. I let it soak in some oil for a bit and then moved on to something less annoying. The dust cap came off next. And then the hub nut. And then the hub itself. The bearings were done at the same time as the brake discs. They're fine, so I'll be reusing those. Then I undid the disc bolts. Or tried to. I couldn't get a proper grip. So I tried a bit of wood. And failed. That's when I remembered I have an impact gun. Easy when you have the right tools. The dust shields are next. They didn't want to come straight off, so I gave them a bit of liquid persuasion. Job done. For their age, these are in great shape under all the crud. I've seen cars 10 years old with worse shields than this. So let's have another go at that ball joint. Nope, more oil and then onto something else. Time to get the springs off now. I just use standard spring compressors. It's a straightforward job, it just takes time. I've got the impact gun out, might as well use it. It does still spin the strut around, but it does slowly undo the nut. Still a lot easier than messing around with a spanner. One of the spring compressors was binding on the strut top, so I had to persuade it to move off. Then I took the compressors off. First by hand, and then once I've loosened them enough, I finished them off with the impact gun. Hey, might as well make the most of it. The nuts that hold the struts in were seized in place. As I was replacing them anyway, I didn't mind chewing them up a little to get them out. If that lower arm doesn't want to come out, it might as well make itself useful. If you're wondering why the engine is still in the background, I stripped a lot of this down a while ago before I did the engine. I think these are still alright, but I'm going to replace them anyway. I don't like the look of that rust though. It looks like it's all down the inside of the strut, but I don't think it's done any damage, it's just surface rust. I reckon this has had its day though. Now there's nothing else to do other than get this ball joint out. I guess the oil will work then. So here's everything stripped down and ready for cleaning. I still need to drive this ball joint out. All the important parts are thankfully in good shape and just need cleaning up and painting. All the rubber bits are wrecked, but they'll all be replaced as a matter of course anyway. The struts and springs are past their best, so they'll all be replaced. And the discs will be cleaned up and reused. They don't look it, but they're actually fine. I did of course do both sides, but I'm just showing you one here. No point repeating it all. Not too sure about these. They look bad, but as long as the rubber isn't coming apart, I think they can be saved. Right, let's get these ball joints out now. There's a circlip that needs to come out first. And the ball joint itself is a press fit in the arm. It's because of things like this that I wasn't too upset about needing to buy a press to do the rear axle bearings. I'll find plenty of use for it. This is actually the second one I did. I didn't film the first one because I wanted to concentrate on the work. That turned out to be dead easy and took about 2 minutes. This one though. The arm is an awkward shape and it was tricky to get things lined up properly, so things kept slipping out. For some reason this one ball joint did not want to shift either. And of course, every time it slips out you need to lift the press up, reposition everything, and bring it all back down and try again. This is a scary machine as well. There's a lot of pressure here, so when it slips, it does it with a lot of drama. I tried a few different arrangements. I used the old bearing races from episode 12 as well, which helped. A little anyway. But after about 15 minutes messing about, I finally got it free enough that I could drive it out the rest of the way with a hammer. I was grumpy enough by that point that I didn't even bother filming that bit though, so sorry about that. Most of the suspension was just covered in a few decades of road dirt, but some of it, like the steering rack, was covered in old oil as well. So it took a fair amount of time to clean all the grime out the nooks and crannies. I put the boots back on the rack at this point, just to stop too much dirt getting inside. Once I got all the worst of the dirt off, I cleaned the rack inside and out with some white spirits to get rid of all the old grease. Now for the rest of the parts. Let's get some music going. Well, that was dirty work, but everything's come up looking great. And lastly, the subframe. Like the steering rack, it had a mix of road dirt and old oil mixed, so it was pretty messy. But I managed to scrape it all off pretty easy. Yeah, that's an old barbecue spatula. Don't laugh, it did a good job. Then it all got a good clean with white spirits. And then the paint was stripped off with a wire wheel. I was only planning on cleaning up the worst bits, but this paint came off pretty easy, so I ended up stripping it all off. A wire wheel on the drill got to all the little bits the grinder couldn't reach. Then it was painting time. I started off priming everything with etch primer. And then some black chassis paint. Uh-oh. That's a pain. That was nearly a full can too. Oh well, you can. The strut tubes were next. The axles made pretty useful handles, but I had to be a bit creative with how I set them up to dry. Hey, whatever works. I used chassis paint here. Some parts got gloss black, some got satin black. I was trying to strike some kind of contrast. I don't know why, it's all going to end up covered in dirt anyway. Some more creative parts hanging. Yes, that's a garden fork. Yeah, I really should start wearing gloves when I do this sort of painting. The track rod ends were actually newish as well. I did a few bits of front end work on the car before I took it off the road, so a lot of this stuff is hardly used. I'll just paint these so they don't go rusty again in a month like they did last time. A lot of this stuff was bare metal to begin with, but I'll paint them anyway. Just so it looks pretty for the MOT guy. Gotta say, this fork is really handy. The steering rack was next. I kept the aluminium parts bare, just for a little contrast, you know. And finally the subframe. That got a coat of etch primer. And some gloss black. Shiny. Somehow I forgot all about this. It's the bracket for the engine mount, and it's in a pretty sorry state too. I think we can save it though. Just gotta get the mount off first. So a bath of some penetrating fluid. And it's loose. It wasn't easy and access was a right pain, but it didn't put up as much of a fight as I thought it was going to. It got an electrolysis bath to get rid of the rust first. Still a little scabby, but most of the rust is gone now. It just needs a little bit of cleaning up. There was still a little bit of rust left, so I gave it another go in the bath. And that's much better. I didn't want this to just go rusty straight away again, so I helped the drying time along a little. There's a little bit of pitting on the back plate, but otherwise I'm happy with this. So it got a bit of primer. Then some chassis paint and it's done. I know this isn't really suspension, it's the radiator lower mount, but it's in that sort of area, so I'm putting it in this video anyway. Then the mounting hardware got cleaned up. I'm replacing a lot of the nuts and bolts, but some of these can just be cleaned up and plated. After cleaning, they got an acid bath to get them ready for plating. Just pretend I'm wearing gloves here. Safety first. Then they went in the plating bath. Then another acid dip. And into the passivation solution. This lot got done in gold, I did another batch in the clear. Time to put the rack together now. First job, get some grease in there. I'll replace the bolt with a grease nipple. Which turned out to be useless. I guess this grease gun needs a new nozzle. But it turned out to have the same thread as the grease nipple, so I improvised. All good. I couldn't find out how much this is supposed to have, so I just pumped grease in there until it was coming out each side. And then I stuck a bit on the ball joints for good measure. And then it was time to get the boots on. And what a pick of a job this turned out to be. A greased pig, in fact. The boots were tight, the rack wouldn't stay still, and the grease just got everywhere. I couldn't stretch the boots over the lip, and guiding them on with a screwdriver just caused the other side to slip off again. Typically, I got this one on while the camera wasn't running. But at least I got it, and I didn't even stab the screwdriver through the boot. And now for the other side. Success! Now I need a cup of tea. A good cup of tea and a sit down later, I came back and put the tyres on. I know that's not the right tool, but I was still too grumpy to care. They did the job. Then I spent a while cleaning up all the grease. Then the track rod ends went on, complete with shiny gold nuts. I'll just set them to about halfway down the thread. Good enough for now. And that's everything clean, painted, plated, or just straight up replaced. Time to start putting it all together now, but I'll tackle that in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. If you can subscribe as well, that would be awesome. And I'll see you on the next one.